The Vault, also known as Way Down. IMDb lists both titles, and honestly, I'm not sure which is the official one. The poster says The Vault, so let's go with that. It's a new heist film. It's a Spanish production, but it's mostly in English. The story opens with a crew of a salvage ship that's recovering treasure from old sunken ships. The job we meet them at has them recover millions worth of treasure, but one item of them all is worth potentially even more. Three golden coins engraved with markings that are supposed to point to the location of the lost treasure of Francis Drake. Before the crew can get away with it, though, they are approached by the Spanish authorities and forced to give up the illegally recovered chests and riches. However, their leader, Walter, doesn't want to give up and he begins planning a heist to recover those treasures. Problem is, they've been moved to the vault of the Bank of Spain in Madrid, which is supposedly impossible to break into. And the main challenge is that you don't even know what the challenge is. It is not known publicly what exactly is the security, so the crew has to figure that out first. And to do so, they enlist the help of a genius engineering student, Thom. So I really like heist movies when they're done well, and so I was kind of excited by the prospect of this film, especially because of its interesting premise. But unfortunately, I ended up walking really disappointed, which hurt especially bad after a relatively solid start to the film. So I will begin with the things that I did like about it. I really liked the premise. I like the fact that it's based in reality because the vault actually does exist and it does behave much like it does in the film. The only key difference is that in the real world, its workings are basically public knowledge. You can just Google it and read about it. Whereas in the film, it's kind of meant to be a secret, so the crew has to figure all of this out by themselves. But hey, that's fine. I can accept that deviation because it gives them a lot to do during the first and second acts of the movie. I also really enjoyed the fact that the movie is set during the 2010 FIFA World Cup in football, and that fact has a lot of bearing on the plot. The fact that right outside the bank there are these huge TV screens, and there are huge, sporting events being watched by enormous crowds on one of Madrid's largest plazas. And I love this aspect of tying these things together. It gives the movie somewhat of a unique flavor. And finally, I think that the first half of the film is done, relatively well. The way that the crew is preparing the heist, figuring out different stuff, scouting the location, that's all done in an engaging, yet reasonably realistic way. I could believe that these things, could really happen, particularly the way that the few times that they use social engineering to get past obstacles. And there are some genuine thrills and chills which kept me invested for a time. I was on board up until around the middle of the film because that's when the movie starts quickly going downhill. The heist itself is downright stupid and disrespectful to the audience in the various ways that we're expected to believe that the crew would be able to do the things in the way they do them. I mean, even when the way that they eventually use to get into the bank had me rolling my eyes in disbelief because there was just no way that this could happen, like ever. And from then on, it's worse and worse and worse. And with every passing minute, things just get incredibly more outlandish and silly. And as a result, I couldn't really keep being invested in the film as soon as I stopped believing in the possibility of these things happening. Also, the twists and turns are quite predictable, honestly, and some of them are very cheesy on top of that. Like, there's a scene that's supposed to be, the emotional climax of the film during the escape and during the final World Cup match as well. And I won't say what happens, but it's a moment, it's like it's lifted from the worst rom-com ever and put to screen in a way that is apparently meant to be serious. Also, I did have a problem with the protagonist, the boy genius Thom. First of all, it's the tired trope of an awkward prodigy, which at this point is fairly exhausting. But there are instances where it is sometimes done right, like Sherlock, the TV show, comes to mind as an example. However, in this film, it falls completely flat because of Freddie Highmore, who plays the role. His performance is exceptionally wooden and stiff, and it's almost head scratching because it's such a cliched role that he should be able to pull off without you don't really have to do a lot in it, and yet he's just totally boring. He has one expression throughout the film, and delivers all his lines in the same way. And I just couldn't stand his character. And in particular, in this particular case, I think it is the fault of the actor more than anyone else. It's not like the character is written in a terrible way. It's I felt it was just the performance. All in all, what starts as a genuinely engaging and fun movie quickly devolves into this implausible, stupid, and unbelievable story that's not even carried by performances, primarily because the lead one is so wooden, and finally culminating in shameless sequel bait. Uh, a shame, really, because I can't in good conscience recommend the film as a whole, even to starved fans of heist movies.